Hi everyone, welcome to Clo 6.2 webinar. Here we're going through the new features that 6.2 has to offer. We will start with our key features. We have a new tool called the Fill tool. The Fill tool will give you the ability to more accurately add a fill to your quilted garment, accessories and home goods. This tool is located on your 2D toolbar. We are starting with a vest that is already made and internal quilting lines have already been added. By selecting the new Fill tool, we can select one, or by holding shift we can select all pattern pieces for the corresponding lining and then release shift and place those new pattern pieces below my existing ones. These new pattern pieces have a purple glow to let us know that the fill tool has been used. There will be no pattern pieces for the internal fill, but that can be accessed in our property editor later. The existing internal lines have already been sewn together, but we can always adjust, delete or add additional lines later. I'm quickly adding in new internal lines to the collar. Once these lines are added, we can return to the fill tool to select the newly added lines. These internal lines are highlighted in purple and we now know that they have been activated and sewn together. Where the pocket bag is currently sewn onto the front of the vest, the quilting function of the fill tool has not been activated. The fill tool can be activated or deactivated with a simple click. Let's leave the pocket internal lines deactivated. Now that we have applied our fill, we can start to adjust and customize our filling. By using the fill tool to select the desired pattern piece and then looking to our property editor, there are 4 types of fill type: 75 duck, 25 fill, 90 duck, 10 fill, 80 goose 20 fill, 90 goose 10 fill. Once we have selected our desired fill type, we can select the weight of the internal fill. We can put the total weight of all the fill for multiple pattern pieces and Clo will divide the fill between those pattern pieces. For example, if I put 300 grams into my 2 front panels, Clo will divide this to 150 on each side. We can also put in the weight of the fill for a single pattern, 300 grams for the back panel and 60 grams for the collar. From there, we can enter the quilting distance, which will be the distance between the quilted internal lines. The body of the vest currently has quilting lines 3 inches apart, which is why I am entering in 3. Then, selecting the collar separately, since this pattern piece has quilting line 3/4 inches apart. Next to this, there is a question mark symbol which has a full description of how this part of the tool works. With all of that information added, we can now simulate the garment in 3D and adjust as needed. Finally, I am selecting a majority of my quilted pattern pieces using the fill tool to add one last detail. We have the ability to turn on realistic quilting to add extra detail to our quilting lines. If I check on the realistic quilting line, it will give a much more realistic padding look. I have left realistic quilting off on the collar, so we can then compare this both on and off. It is recommended to add realistic quilting once you're finished with your garment. Let's review the Fold 3D garment tool, its options and a couple of best practices to help you succeed with folding. We're going to fold this women's sweater and there is not an avatar in the project file. There is also currently a low resolution garment. We will first set up the garment so it is laying flat on the ground. Select all pattern pieces and rotate it parallel to the ground so we can lay it flat. Right click and choose Move to Ground Center and Simulate. We can hide the 2D window as we are folding in the 3D window and view the garment from the top. The Fold 3D Garment tool is located in the 3D toolbar. Once selected, you will see that a pop-up box will appear with multiple tools to use, which we will go through right now. The first tool is the Rotate Garment tool, which will rotate the garment around the x-axis. Next to that is the Flip tool. This will flip the garment over. I'm going to use this tool so that we can fold the garment from the back. And we should also simulate after to get the garment set up. Next tool will allow us to optimize the resolution for folding. And these are the recommended default setting for folding your garment. Click OK to proceed. If you see any wrinkles or areas of overlapping that you would like to get rid of, you can then use the Spreading tool. This tool will spread out the garment and remove wrinkles similar to Strengthen function. Adjust the garment so the arms are straighter and the pieces are as flat as possible, and make sure to simulate in between. This option also adds stiffness to the garment and makes it easy for us to fold. Once our garment is all prepared, we can now fold it. For that, we have Fold tool. This will allow us to fold the entire garment and is used when pattern pieces are not overlapping. Rotate your screen so the neck of the sweater is further away. Starting outside of the garment, draw a line along the garment where you want to fold. Double click to finish and you will get a gizmo similar to the Fold Arrangement tool. Here you can select the outer arrow and rotate it up and over the rest of the garment. I'm going to then simulate and then stop. Next is Fold Selected tool. This will allow you to select single or multiple pattern pieces to fold. I want this arm to be folded under before I fold the other half of the garment. With this tool, you have to select the pattern pieces to be folded. In this case, I'm also selecting the cuff as it is attached to the sleeve. Once the pattern that you want to be folded are selected, press Return or Enter key on your keyboard. Starting outside of the pattern piece, draw a line along the garment where you want to fold. Double click to finish and you will get that similar gizmo function. Rotate the outer arrow up and over the rest of the garment and stop. As I start to simulate, I will pull the cuff a bit downwards and fix the drape. Now we will go back and forth between the two fold tools to achieve the fold we want, and of course we will be simulating in between to make sure the garment relaxes and drapes well. We can now flip the garment back to the front to see what it looks like. We are going to use the fold tool one more time to fold the cuff over the front. Once finished, we can now use the high resolution garment tool to create a finished folded sweater. In this version 6.2, a link function has been added that allows you to check and download digital contents uploaded from Clo to Clo-Set. Clo 6.2 has a new tab in the library. This tab is a space that links Clo-Set space and contents. For those who have not yet used the function, this space will be shown as an empty space, like the screen. To link with Clo-Set, you must first register your Clo-Set account here. Click on the Clo-Set account icon and click on Add Account button in the window that appears. If you're signed into Clo-Set, your account is added to the library immediately. Otherwise, sign into Clo-Set on the web browser and add it to the library. When Clo-Set account is displayed in the pop-up window of Clo, click on Close button to close it. The screen you see now is Clo-Set platform. Clo-Set is a communication workspace that can store 3D content in the cloud and collaborate with members. From the moment you upload the created 3D content to Clo-Set, you can share ideas and make decisions while communicating in real time. To make a database of data through Clo-Set, let's briefly review the concept of a workroom. When you use Clo-Set for the first time, or when you are invited to Clo-Set for the first time, you can go through the Clo-Set sign-up process and check the dashboard of Clo-Set. Check the group you belong to first. An individual can belong to many groups. If you're invited to Clo-Set and signed up, you can see a total of 2 groups. The group you are the owner of and the group you are invited to. Brands can be added to each group, seasons can be created within brands, and workrooms can be created within seasons. All 3D data and contents necessary for production and communication will be stored in this workroom. 3D assets uploaded to workroom can be checked with a 3D viewer directly on the content page, and detailed communication can be communicated, and additional 3D work can be performed by appropriately granting each user's style permission according to the situation. Of course, it is good to download the file from Clo-Set somewhere on the individual PC and use it by loading it from Clo, but with the new function of 6.2, this process can be performed more smoothly. You can now select a group from the library. Depending on the group, the folder that appears below is different. Clo-Set workroom linked with Clo's library is a favorite folder registered in account. Therefore, to use workroom in Clo's library, register workroom as a favorite in Clo-Set platform. When you click the refresh icon in the library, the workrooms you have added to your favorites appear in the list. You can check the digital contents in the workroom by double-clicking the workroom in the list. Just like Clo's basic library, you can open the file and use it while checking the thumbnails of clothes, fabrics, and avatars. When new files are added or excluded from Workroom, Clo and Clo-Set are used by making the same environment by clicking the refresh icon in Clo's library to link them. As the frequency of encountering Clo-Set with this function increases in the future, you will sometimes find questions about Clo-Set. In that case, please do not hesitate to contact us at hello@closet.com. The Clo-Set professional team will always respond sincerely. You will now find the ability to export avatar as an FBX with or without the rigging data. In the export settings, you will find two new options, Export All and Exclude Rig. The first option, Export All, will allow you to export the avatar FBX with the rigging data and skeleton. If you choose Exclude Rig option, you will be able to export the avatar FBX without the skeleton. Now let me import both files and show the result. As you can see, the first FBX we exported came in with the skeleton and the other one did not. Another development regarding FBX improvement is an additional option when importing FBX files. We used to only be able to import FBX files as avatars. In 6.2, we can also import FBX as a trim using this new drop-down in the import settings. We can use a glue button to attach it to the garments. So we can also use the trim related settings that we could use before on OBJs and trim files. You can scale the trim, change the weight in the property editor. This also allows us to edit the colors and materials in the Colorway mode. Another new feature is the ability to export Colorway as multiple files. Here I've already set a few Colorway in the Colorway mode for this particular style. Now we will go to the main menu of the file and select Export as a GLTF file. In the pop-up window, the details can be set as needed. In the file bar, check Save Colorways and then a selection box with Combine to one file or multiple file option will appear. If you want to combine all GLTF file of the same color into one file for application, you can select Combine to one file. If you want to save each GLTF file of each colorway separately, you can select multiple files. To open the separate Colorway GLTF file, go to File and Import as GLTF. You can also change the object type to trim while importing. This new feature is going to allow us to import gene file in the texture editor. This denim garment already has some washing effects and puckering. In our fabric property, we have tile textures. And under object browser, we have the images for the puckering we have placed on the garment. Earlier, we were not able to bake the images of the puckering in UV editor mode. Now, we have the ability to unify them and bake the puckering effect. I have opened another file where the textures of the puckering are already unified. From now on, we can also unify gene files as well. So we can open the texture editor under the texture tab on the property editor and open the unified texture we just did with our puckering baked as well. I can then open a gene file and place it on my garment as a graphic. I'm using the gizmo on the corner to place it correctly. I could also select a blending mode. Soft light is a blending mode that eDesigner uses to calculate the correct effect of the laser. When we apply and close, we'll have both gene file and texture together under our texture tab. Before, when we imported Genealogia file as graphics, it was difficult to achieve the same region of graphic on the pocket. But now it is very easy. If I have pocket, I can relocate it exactly on top of the graphic inside the UV editor, and I can make sure I have the exact same fading. On another hand, if we try to bake this texture with Genealogia file, we won't be able to, and we will get this message instead. The object display of light and wind controller has been changed. In the previous version, the controller object display appeared in a cone shape. So many users were confused about which direction the function was operated. In the new version, the controller object display has been changed to a more intuitive form, making it easier to recognize and use the direction in which the function works. In the toggle menu, Environment Display, click Show Light 3D and Show Wind Controller View. If you use the gizmo to adjust the direction of the light controller, you can absorb how the shadow moves as the light is applied in the direction of the arrow. Again, we will use the gizmo to adjust the direction of the wind controller. Activate it in the Properties window and click the Simulation tool. You can see how the wind is applied in the direction of the arrow now. In Clo 6.2, we have added in the ability to now replace patterns. This will allow you to quickly and easily update patterns while keeping the arrangement, sewing, fabric and top stitching along with internal lines intact. I will demonstrate this here. I will bring in a new DXF pattern into my workspace. You must make sure that you have the same amount of segment point for each pattern to properly replace it. I can take my sleeve pattern and simply right click and copy and then move to my symmetrical sleeve, select it, right click and select replace pattern. This will then replace both symmetrical pattern while keeping the internal lines, graphics, fabric texture and the properties along with the sewing relationship and arrangement. What will be replaced are the point positions, curves, notches, baselines, pattern name and grading information, which you will see in the body patterns. When replacing half symmetrical patterns, you will need to make sure that the replaced patterns are also half symmetrical. Now when I replace these patterns, you will see that the names are now updated along with the shape and curve of the pattern and baselines along with the grading information. I can continue to adjust the style around, and when finished I can simply simulate and I will have my updated style ready. This feature will be very helpful for a multitude of things. One example could simply be updating a popular style for a new season. Now you will be able to adjust the grading point of each size respectively. First, use the basic edit grading tool to check original grade offset in the property editor. Now you can use the new tool, which is edit grading each, to drag and change the grading point of each size. Go back to the basic edit grading tool and the offset value will change synchronically. As the same concept, the curve point of each graded size can be dragged and adjusted by Edit Curve Grading Each tool. This feature will help you to change the grading point in a more convenient way. Next, you will be able to adjust the ends of seam allowance in different width. For that, add seam allowance on the pattern using seam allowance tool. Go to Property Editor and change the type as point. The segment will be highlighted as an arrow showing the start and end point. You can adjust the width value in Property Editor to customize the seam allowance. In this version, you will be able to offset internal line individually. You can select a line or an internal line using Edit Pattern tool and right-click and select Offset as internal line. In the pop-up, you can change the number of offsets more than one. Next, you will be able to choose the distance as individual. As a result, you will be able to choose whether the offset is counted from previous line, which is the adjacent line, or selected line, which is the original line that I had selected. Then you can enter the desired offset value. And you will have individually offsetted internal lines. You will have the ability to maintain original curvature of pattern when using fullness point tool. A natural curve is applied by default when the pattern is cut. You can keep the original curvature by pressing D key on your keyboard. Our add print feature has been updated in this new version. Here I'm going to go into my add print button and bring in a PNG print to place on top of my ground fabric. Once I select this button, it will then take me to where all my files are in my computer, and I can select the artwork I would like to add. We have added in more repeat types. Now we have diamond option, stripe X and stripe Y axis options. I'm going to select all so you can see the differences between them. We have also included a custom repeat type. When using this, you can then go to the drop down arrow here, and here you can place in different values for space, shift X and Y. As you can see, you can now create many different variations of print layouts quickly while your texture image is simultaneously being updated. In 6.2, we have added in another way in which you can bring in fabric maps. Going into my object browser, I can select one of my fabrics and right-click. In this drop-down menu, I then have the option of Open Select Material. Once selected, You will then be taken to your computer files, and here you can select one of your ZFab files. Once selected, a pop-up box will appear. This pop-up box will allow you to select which map you would like to replace. You either choose to select all or only replace certain maps. I'm going to only replace the texture map for this fabric. You can also adjust the back and side of the fabric as well. The default will be open, same material as front. You will also have the option to replace the physical property of the fabric as well. When you're all set, you can then select OK and your fabric will be updated. As you can see, I have a new texture image. I can continue to adjust and edit this texture around if I'd like. This function will also work in Colorway mode, so you can easily have multiple types of fabrics within one project file. As you can see, when I right click, I will have this option in my menu. Here I will bring in a header. I will not check on my physical property option because at this time it will affect all colorways. I will demonstrate this in the next colorway. Going into my other colorway, I will now bring in a waffle fabric and check on the physical property. You can see that in my property editor it has been updated. However, my previous colorway have also been updated. If I move into my other colorway, that physical property will also be what the knit waffle is as well. I can still continue to replace these texture images if I like, but the physical property will remain the same of the waffle knit as long as I do not select physical property in the next one. In the new version, we now have reflection channel in fur material type. To view the result, we will first open the render window and activate the interactive rendering. Select the fabric fur and go to its property editor. Scroll towards the reflection channel below. Now if I increase the reflection intensity, I can not only see the difference in 3D window now, I can also see the difference in render window. Similarly, if I decrease the reflection intensity, the reflection will not be visible. From this version, it is possible to set the topstitch pattern differently while maintaining simultaneous editing function of the symmetric patterns. For example, if the left and right patterns are the same, but only the topstitch is set differently like a fly of a pants, the symmetry pattern editing function had to be removed before. But from this version, different topstitch can be set on both sides while maintaining the symmetric pattern. I will demonstrate this. Create all the topstitch you need to work on first. Then, the topstitch of the fly part should be visible only on one side of the pattern. So select Edit Topstitch tool to remove the symmetry editing. Since the removal of symmetry editing of the top stitch must be set for each top stitch line, if the top stitch to be removed is broken and there are multiple lines, select multiple lines at once. And if you right click on the selected top stitch, you can select the Remove Linked Editing menu. If you select this menu, you can now edit individually. So you can delete unnecessary top stitches created on the opposite side of the pattern. Then, as you can see, you can set the top stitch differently while maintaining simultaneous edit function of the symmetric pattern. Another great resource added to CLO 6.2 is the YKK Global Color Palette. If you open your color window, you will see in addition to your Pantone color library, you also have a new tab for the YKK colors. If the tab is not automatically visible in your color window, you can add it manually from your program files. You can go to Clo Network Online Authorization, select Preset, in that select Palette, and you will be able to find ykkglobalcolors.cco file. With this new feature, your avatars can be saved as encrypted avatar files. Open any avatar in Clo and click on File, Save as Avatar and choose Encrypted Avatar File Format from the drop-down and save. Once you change the file format to Encrypted Avatar or AVTE file, the avatar cannot be further exported as another 3D file like FBX or OBJ. You can click on the file, open Avatar to load the AVTE file to the Clo window. Now let me export this avatar as an OBJ. I will now try to import the OBJ back to Clo. A fail to load error message will pop up and object data will also be missing. Now let's try FBX file. Click on File, Export FBX. Then try to import the same back in Clo. It will also fail to load. In addition to this, an AVTE file can also be saved as an AVT or avatar file. Even if you try to save it as an AVT file, it will still get saved as AVTE file format, that is encrypted file format. In Clo 6.2, we have made some updates in our print layout and nesting algorithms. You can see off to the side, we have a few new tools that will help you to attain a more efficient pattern nest. The first tool we will cover is the play nesting tool. This tool will use the updated algorithm to nest your patterns. The longer you let this load, the more efficient the algorithm will be. However, you can select the Stop Nesting tool at any time to finish the nesting. Once you hit Stop, you will then see that your property editor has populated with new information. This is your nesting setting options. You can get to this option by also selecting the nesting setting button here. You have a few different settings to choose from. The first option here is the number of garments. You can select current or grading. You can then select the total amount of the garment you would like to see. You can also decide if you would like any other colorways to follow these nesting settings. You can either choose the current colorway, all colorways, or custom. With custom, you can then use this button off to the right to then choose which colorways you would like to follow these settings. We also have provided grain direction options with one-way or two-way. You also can input your buffering space for your pattern pieces as well. Further down, you have information here. You can choose which unit you would like to see this information in, depending on the unit type you are most familiar with. You can then see the fabric width and height for that nested area, along with the efficiency of the consumption and remnant fabric. And finally, you can see the pattern area. If you like to adjust your fabric roll width, you still can simply select the pattern piece and you will then see your property editor change, and here you can change your fabric roll width. We can now go back to our nesting play button and see if our pattern's nest changes with these different settings and fabric roll. Again, the longer you let this load, the more efficient the algorithm will be. Another tool that you can use is this. Remove additional nesting pattern pieces. If selected, it will then remove these outline patterns and then show you one set of the pattern pieces. We also have a Reset Default Nesting tool, which will then reset the nesting tool before you inputted the nesting settings. Finally, we also have the Snapshot tool, which will allow you to take a snapshot of your nested pattern on the fabric roll. The pop-up options for the snapshot have not changed. You can now save snapshots of your colorway as a PDF. After you design all colors in the Colorway editor, click on the button Save Image on the upper left corner. Select Colorway Editor from the pop-up window. In this new version, PDF file format have been added to the Save option below. Now you will be able to move in quadrant unit to ensure that the original texture pattern is maintained when moving UV across quadrants. After completing the 3D production, switch to the UV editor mode. Now you can see that the menu options on the right have two more new functions. Select the third option, Move UV. Enter movement distance 1 in the pop-up window to move a quadrant distance and so on. Then press the arrow key to move the UV to complete. Another improvement is the automated and fast UV centralized arrangement. You can see that the menu options on the right have another new function, UV arrangement. Once you click on it, automated and a fast UV centralized arrangement is complete. Let me share some updates related to the review mode. In the past, to switch to review mode, you had to match the avatar by grading size, Simulate the garment on the avatar and then click on Save 3D State button to manually save the simulation state. However, starting with this version, if you match the avatar by grading size and simulate the clothes on the avatar, the final simulation state is automatically saved in the review mode. In addition, in order to modify the simulation state of a specific size while using the review mode in the past, it was necessary to select a specific size to be modified in the simulation mode and then simulate again from the beginning, so partial correction in the last state was not possible. But now, since this version has been improved, the simulated state is maintained even if you return to the simulation mode from the review mode. You can edit only the parts you want to edit in the review mode. Also, the last state simulated is applied directly to review mode. Unfortunately, as this feature was developed, review mode data created in versions prior to 6.2 could not be maintained. However, the information matched with the avatar remains as it is, so you only need to reapply the simulation for each size. Once a size set status is saved in review mode, it can be changed into different texture display mode for clear understanding. Meanwhile, the size set in review mode can be shown by stress map and strain map for better comparison. You can also change the display mode of avatar if needed. From now on, you can set a default mode in Clo. Simulation mode was the default in the previous versions, but with the latest update, you can change it according to your preference to any of the below modes. For this, you can open the user settings. From the user interface, you can set the default mode as simulation, animation, colorway, modular, UV editor, or BOM. Let me set the modular mode as default and close the window. And any time you open a new instance, Clo will launch in your preferred mode. In 6.2, we have improved our rendering window to now allow you to choose which colorways you would like to render out. By going to this button off to the right here, you will be able to select which colorway you would like to render out. Once selected, a pop-up box will appear here and you can choose the colorway. You can either select all or select just a few. Once selected, click OK. Now you can render out images by selecting Stop Render and Final Render button. And as you can see below, I now only have 2 images to render out. Once finished, I will then be able to review my renderings. We hope you enjoyed the webinar and learned a lot of great things. Thank you so much for watching.